Well, here I am at Iden Lock. We're looking at the bridge where the Rother passes under the what is now the military road from Rye to Appledore. It is navigable, but at the moment, because of the level of water in it, I don't think I would want to try taking a boat under there. That looks a bit low. But this was the course of the diverted River Rother, straight down there after the great storm of 1287. It came straight down from behind me, and you can see the sun rising above the trees there. It's just after 6 o'clock now, and it came straight down here, and what was now the main Rother over here on the right, that in actual fact as I said before, just became a channel used for flood prevention and drainage. Then when we had the threat of Napoleonic invasion, all this was altered. The Rother it had previously been used as a watercourse before that, and you could still get boats up round the top end of Small Hythe. And then they built the Royal Military Canal, which was still navigable at the time in 1808, and for the next 100 years these little Rye sailing barges could get quite a way up the Rother. The last recorded transaction of a sailing barge going through Iden Lock here was in 1909, and a small vessel called the Vulture, and I believe in a museum somewhere that the paperwork exists, and that was the last officially recorded boat ship, if you like, through the Iden Lock, because since then what's happened is they've made a sluice gate here. And I think if I just walk through here, this is a sad reflection of its former self, of course. But here was the lock where the Rye sailing barges and the other boats would leave the Rother and join what became the Royal Military Canal. The sluice gate is now below me, and I suppose this would be navigable for small craft up to the north. You could probably get up Appledore High that way, but as you can see, no longer a lock. Maybe one day, you never know. Countryside sounds, the different birds. The Lock cottage is interesting. It looks like somebody is actually staying there at the moment, so for their privacy I don't really want to zoom in too far. When the Royal Military Canal was built, this was in actual fact the officers' quarters, and then it became the lock keeper's cottage. Now it's privately owned, but as a quirky little piece of history, you can stay here and rent. Don't know how much it is. I shouldn't imagine it's cheap, but apparently the bloke that owns it is a very nice chap, and if you were the person coming in to rent the cottage, he usually will leave you everything you need: tea, coffee, bread, butter, and he'll even either buy or bake a cake and leave it on the table for you. So there you go. But this is the bridge over the Rother on the military road, just this side of Iden. Quite a nice view from here, Again, there's the sunrise. And that is what I've missed this year. Last year I was so lucky. Almost every weekend I went out and the sun was shining like that, and this year there's been none of that. This is why I resorted to coming out on a weekday, which I don't usually like because it gets too busy. That's the one thing that tends to block the landscape, but it's something we're all going to have to get used to. That's the wind farm on Goldiford Marsh, or Guildford Marsh, some people pronounce it. As I say, the Rother is navigable here as far as Scots Sluice, which will be my next port of call. But when you come this side, and we're looking back towards Newbridge, this is rather pretty, isn't it? As I say, the river is very high up at the moment, and I wouldn't want to try and take a boat underneath the bridge at the present time unless it was something rather small. You need the levels to drop before that, and I think in order for them to drop it's got to be low tide, and they've got to open the sluice gates at Scots Float. But we're nearly at the end of our journey down the Rother. There's one more road bridge to go and also there's the railway bridge over it, but I will cover that in a single program later on when I tackle when the three rivers actually get into Rye. So I'm just going down to the Scots Float now. After that we will turn our attention to the River Tillingham for a while. Well, we're here at Scots Float Sluice. And much changed over the years. But this is the point at which, if you're boating down the Rother, you can't get any further. Looks like the gates are open this morning. As you can see, there's a definite flow out of the Rother and into the other side, so it must be low tide. But, unfortunately, you see, because of these big sluice gates, and you see they're up now, right at their highest level. If they were lower, we could probably get up there and see. I'm going to lift. I don't know if you can see that, but you can see that the river is definitely low tide. And so what's happening now is the gates are open and they're letting the water and the flood waters out of the Rother to float down the last bit of the river and out to sea, and so hopefully take the flood waters away from the low-lying areas behind me. This sluice has been here since the 15th, 16th centuries in one form or another. At one time it was also known as the Star Lock, and there would have been a lock here to one side, and that is where the sailing barges, the little Rye sailing barges, would have been allowed to pass. And I'm guessing maybe, although this is obviously modern work here, maybe this side would have been the side where you could take your boat through and go down into Rye, but not anymore. That's definitely finished now. But you can see how much rain we've had and just how much water is flowing out of the Rother. well, it's not actually out of the Rother, it is the Rother, shall we say, flowing out of the freshwater side into the seawater side of it, brackish. When the tide begins to come in, oh, looks like they're opening the gates even more. Let's go and have a look. Yep, that gate's come up right the way now. And the water's flowing down underneath it and out the other side. I don't know if we can see anything more clearly from here. This is all private, of course, nowadays. And there's a little slipway just up there, if you want to launch a boat into the Rother. It is navigable for 10 miles upstream, as we say, right the way up Newenden, and some small boats even further than that up the bottom. And well, we've been on that journey together along the Rother now, right the way from up in Etchingham. This is where it all ends as far as the main story concerned. It flows down into Rye, through Rye, and out where there's been a carefully sculpted exit to the sea, which I'll say a little bit more about when I do that final one, when I've tackled the Tillingham and the Breed, and I'll bring it all together in a closing episode in Rye itself. Hopefully I might get that done this year with a bit of luck and a bit of good weather. We'll probably be able to do that. Yes, you can definitely see the mud banks over there, but look how much extra water is now flowing. And this is what's controlled the output of the River Rother for several hundred years now, in one shape or form. I'm just going to take a walk down to this gate just to see if this I don't know if you can see that, but the gates are moving again. Let's go back and take another look. They're really coming right up now, look. And I thought they were fully up already, but it seems not. Ah, look at this. Now there you can see that gate is now fully open, and the river is flowing swiftly out to the sea and taking all its muck and dirt and leaves and everything with it. So not only have we visited the Scots float Sluice, we've actually seen it in action doing what it was designed to do. At low tide you can open it and you can let the water out, but in times of low rainfall those gates would remain shut, and it will keep the level of the Rother at a certain height, way back all the way up and keep it navigable for the pleasure boats and things, and just make sure that there's enough water to meet the needs of the farmers and what have you up there. So that's it for this particular session. I'm looking at a bird flying up there, and it's now gone. I think it was a heron. I don't think no, I can't get any closer to see the river this side, I don't think. Plenty of bulrushes. No, sadly not. But just before I leave, I'm going to pan down into the distance there, because there before us is the town of Rye, and right at the very top, not sure it's in, let's try and get it in focus, there it is, there is the church in the centre of Rye with its clock and its quarter boys. And on that note, I think this particular program is now finished, and I'll see you next time, when I hope to be standing at the very spring that is one of the two sources of the River Tillingham. Hello everyone. Well, this is just a little bonus I filmed specially for the Vogue show. I'm standing on a bit more of the River Rother, except I'm not. I don't think this was ever actually called the Rother. This was the Limen, and this is the course of it before the storm of 1637 diverted its course. 1630, yeah, so I guess it might just have been called the Rother by then. I'll let you have that one. This is now called the Reading Sewer, and it's what keeps the levels north of Wittersham drained and in use for sheep farming, as you can see. And this particular watercourse goes right the way around the top of the Isle of Oxney and back into the Royal Military Canal, which means that Oxney is still technically an island. But it's full of sluices and things to keep the water levels to a certain level. But here on this side, I guess the sluice must be shut at the moment, because this is a bit stagnant down this side, and there's a poor swan down there. It appears to have got himself a little bit stuck, and there's really nothing I can do for him. And then there's his family. They're all shooting off into the distance. There they go. This is a cygnet. I'm guessing one of last year's. Now, what he's got to do is to duck his head right underneath there, and he'll get through. Duck your head underneath, sonny. You'll get there. perhaps if he swims through the other side, if he can get out the other side. But that almost looks to me like those sluice gates are actually shut, doesn't it? Oh well. But just so you know, there wasn't a bad ending to that. He came back through under the bridge, and there he is. All on his own though for now, but I'm guessing that he's pretty soon going to take off. Handsome beast. Pretty soon going to take off and join his family. There. So we'll see you then.